Hi, welcome back to Reddit Confessions. If you're new here, buckle up, because this one hurts. The last thing she said before slamming the car door was, "Don't text. Don't call. I already found someone better." She didn't look back, didn't check if I was crying, didn't care that she left behind everything but her gym bag and a phone charger. I stood in the driveway holding her wedding ring. She had tossed it into the grass before leaving, like it was nothing. 12 years. Reduced to an accessory she didn't want anymore. I should have shouted. I should have begged her to stay. Instead, I just stood there, frozen, pathetic, like a guy who forgot how to speak. I didn't move for a long time, not even after it started raining. And no, this isn't one of those stories where she left because I cheated or because we fought. This isn't about abuse or betrayal on my part. She just decided I was too boring, too safe, too Darien. I found out 3 days later that she left me for a guy named Rex. That's right, Rex. He owns a vape shop, has a neck tattoo of a flaming dice, drives a Camaro with a mismatched hood. Apparently, that was more exciting than a man who folds her laundry and remembers her mom's birthday. I wanted to hate her. I tried. But hate is hard when you're still in love with the woman who shattered you like cheap glass. So I waited. Not for her to return. I wasn't that delusional. I waited for the part of me that still cared to finally die. Spoiler, it didn't. Instead, she came back. 34 days later. Mid-afternoon. My doorbell rang while I was microwaving leftover spaghetti. I opened it, expecting maybe a package or some charity flyer. But there she was, standing in the same hoodie she left in. Hair messy, no makeup, red eyes. "Darien," she whispered, "I made a mistake." You'd think I'd slam the door, or laugh, or at least say something smart like, "Did Rex run out of vape juice?" But I didn't, because what I saw behind her, right over her shoulder, that's the part no one believes when I tell this story. She looked wrecked. Not the glamorous, wind-in-the-hair drama you'd expect from a movie, no. Brittle lips, greasy hair pulled into a bun that had clearly slept on too many couches. Wrinkled hoodie. And the strangest part? Her hands were behind her back, like she was hiding something. I didn't know what to say, but I stepped back and let her in anyway. I didn't even process what I was doing until the door closed behind her, and I caught the scent of her shampoo. That same stupid coconut vanilla scent that used to linger on our pillows for days. She walked into the kitchen like she still lived here. Looked around like she was checking if I'd moved the furniture. Then, without asking, she sat down at the table and finally pulled her hands out from behind her back. It wasn't flowers, or an apology card, or even her ring. It was a Ziploc bag. A freaking Ziploc bag, with 3 folded-up Polaroids inside. She slid it across the table like she was handing me classified documents. Her voice cracked when she said, "You need to see these before I say anything." I didn't move at first. I just stared at the bag like it might explode. I should have asked questions. Should have kicked her out. Should have felt something more than nauseous curiosity. But instead, I opened it. The first photo nearly knocked the air out of me. There was a picture of her and Rex arguing. Not cuddling. Not kissing. Just standing in what looked like a parking lot outside a cheap motel, both of them mid-scream. Rex's face red, her hands up like she was either blocking him or surrendering. The second photo? She was crying on a curb. Alone. Same outfit. Same setting. But this time her knees were pulled to her chest, and her mascara looked like it had exploded all over her face. The third? She was passed out. I don't know how else to say it. She was lying sideways in the back seat of what I think was Rex's car, with a bottle of something half empty by her leg. I looked up, my throat dry. "Who took these?" I asked. She blinked like she was bracing for impact. "His roommate. He said Rex's last ex ended up in the ER, and when I started acting weird, he started keeping tabs." I didn't know what to do with any of that. Was I supposed to feel bad? Say I told you so? Throw my arms around her and rescue her from the mess she made? She reached across the table like she wanted to touch my hand, but I pulled back. "You said you found someone better," I said. "Not someone who yells at you in parking lots and leaves you blacked out in back seats." Her lip quivered. She shook her head. "I thought he was. He made me feel alive again. He made me feel seen." "Seen?" I laughed bitterly. "I folded your laundry, Britta. I bought you tampons. I held your hand when you had your wisdom teeth out and drooled on my jacket. I saw you." Her face twisted like I'd slapped her. And maybe in a way, I had. She stood up suddenly, but she didn't leave. She reached into her pocket and tossed her wedding ring onto the table. The same ring she once claimed was the most meaningful thing anyone ever gave her. It clinked against the wood and spun for a few seconds before tipping over. "I didn't come here to ask you to take me back," she whispered. "I came because I don't have anywhere else to go." I should have told her to leave. But what I said instead was something I regret to this day. "I'll set up the guest room." I still don't know why those words came out of my mouth. Maybe because I was tired. Maybe because I missed her, even if I didn't want to. Or maybe I just didn't want to be alone anymore. Whatever the reason, those 6 words twisted the wheel of this disaster, steering it into a completely different direction. Britta didn't smile. She didn't say thank you. She just nodded, like she expected that response all along, and followed me down the hall like a stray cat that had been let back in after a storm. I opened the guest room door, flipped on the light, and immediately regretted it. The room was a mess. Stacks of unopened mail, dusty cardboard boxes I'd meant to sort months ago, and one dead plant sitting in the window like a wilted symbol of my social life. "I'll clear it," I mumbled, already picking up papers and stuffing them into the closet. She didn't offer to help, just stood there quietly, scanning the walls like she was seeing memories in them. When I turned back around, she was sitting on the edge of the bed, hugging her knees. I told her I'd be in the living room if she needed anything, then shut the door behind me. I stood outside that door for maybe a full minute before walking away, wondering if I had just made the biggest mistake of my life, again. The next few days were strange. She stayed in the guest room, didn't leave the house, barely spoke. We existed like awkward roommates who used to be married. I'd hear her at night, sometimes crying, sometimes pacing. Once I heard her throw up. I wanted to knock and ask if she was okay, but my pride welded me to the couch. On day 4, she finally broke the silence. It was morning. I was making coffee, weak coffee because I forgot to buy filters and had used a napkin instead. She walked in wearing one of my old hoodies, hair messy, eyes puffy, and without looking at me, she said, "I think I messed up my entire life." I didn't answer. I just handed her a mug and leaned against the counter. She took a sip, winced at the taste, but kept drinking. Then she opened up, really opened up, for the first time since she left. She told me how Rex wasn't just controlling, but obsessive. How he'd scream if she didn't respond to texts within minutes. How he'd show up outside her job and make scenes. How he once locked her phone in the glove box of his car because she needed to disconnect. She laughed bitterly as she said that. She said he love-bombed her at first. Flowers, compliments, attention, and it was intoxicating. But then the mood swings started. The paranoia, the accusations, and eventually, the threats. She didn't go into details, and I didn't press. But when she said she was afraid of him, I felt something strange. Protective instinct? Leftover love? Or just muscle memory? I don't know. But I didn't like the image of her scared. Still, part of me was screaming inside. You don't get to break me, run off, and then return with sad eyes expecting rescue. And yet, I was the one doing the rescuing. After her confession, we sat in silence for what felt like an hour, just drinking awful coffee in a kitchen that hadn't seen joy in months. Then she asked a question that stopped my heart. "Do you think you could ever forgive me?" I wish I had lied. I wish I had said no. I wish I had walked away and closed the chapter before it started again. But I didn't. I looked at her, and like the pathetic, broken version of myself that I hated being, I said, "I don't know, but I haven't stopped wanting to." And that's when the real complications began. Because what she said next, I still don't know whether it was a confession, a warning, or the beginning of something even worse. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about her question. "Do you think you could ever forgive me?" And worse, my answer. I hadn't meant to say it out loud. It just slipped out, like a splinter from the old version of me she'd left behind. Around 3:17 a.m., I heard the floor creak outside my door. Soft steps, like someone trying not to wake a child. I sat up in bed, expecting her to be on the way to the bathroom or maybe back to the kitchen to sneak a snack like she used to. But the footsteps stopped at my door. There was a knock, gentle, barely audible. I hesitated, then opened it. Britta stood there in one of my oversized flannel shirts. She looked like she hadn't slept either. She stared at the floor and whispered, "Can I sit?" I stepped aside and watched her cross the room like it was foreign territory. She didn't sit in the chair. She sat on the floor, knees to her chest, and leaned against the wall. "I lied earlier," she said quietly. I didn't respond. I knew she'd keep going. I didn't just come back because I was scared of him, she continued. I came back because I thought I was pregnant. My stomach turned cold. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She didn't say it was mine, and she didn't have to. I already knew it wasn't. But it was a scare, she added quickly. I took 2 tests the day before I came here. Both negative. I sat down on the edge of the bed, heart racing. Did you tell him? She shook her head. I didn't trust him. And honestly, I didn't even know if it was his. That's the worst part. I didn't know what hurt more. The fact that she had a pregnancy scare with another man, or the fact that she wasn't sure whose it would have been. I didn't even have the right to feel betrayed anymore. But that didn't stop the betrayal from burning through me. I'm sorry, Darian, she said, finally looking at me. I was selfish. I was stupid. I thought I was chasing something exciting, but I didn't realize I was sprinting straight into a trap. You were never the problem. I wanted to scream. I wanted to yell that she shattered me for someone who didn't even stick around long enough to finish a relationship, let alone raise a child. But instead, I asked the most ridiculous question I could think of. Did you love him? She didn't answer right away. Then, in a voice so quiet I barely heard it, she said, I thought I did. But now I think I was just desperate to feel anything. You were always calm, stable, safe. And I took that for granted. I thought if I shook things up, I'd feel alive again. But all I did was ruin the only thing in my life that was real. Silence hung between us. Heavy, unforgiving. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded slowly, then stood up, walked past her, and sat at the kitchen table. A minute later, she followed me. We sat there, in silence again, until the sun started to rise. I realized then that even if you still love someone, it doesn't mean you can fix what they broke. But the real punch? The one that still echoes in my chest? It came that morning, right as she was making toast, acting like we were back to normal. That's when she casually mentioned something that stopped me mid-sip of coffee. I'm probably going to see him one last time, she said. Not for anything romantic. I just want closure. I need to tell him I'm done face to face. The mug in my hand slipped slightly. You're what? I have to, she said, as if it were obvious. I need to end it properly. That's when I realized something awful. She wasn't back to stay. She was back to land safely while she figured out how to walk away again. I sat there, staring at her as she buttered the toast like she hadn't just said something devastating. Like she hadn't just casually mentioned she was going to see the man who wrecked our marriage. She moved around the kitchen with ease, humming softly, as if her announcement was nothing more than a weather update. Closure, she said again, this time with a little shrug. I finally found my voice. You're staying under my roof, eating food I bought, and planning a final heart-to-heart with the guy who turned your life into a horror story? Do you not hear how that sounds? She flinched at the tone. Good. Let her flinch. I just don't want to leave things messy, she said quietly, but there was no shame in it. No apology in her tone. Just logic. Cold, precise logic. If I don't face him, I'll always wonder what he would have said. I stood up, shoved my chair back harder than I meant to. The wooden legs scraped loudly against the tile, and for once, she didn't pretend to be unaffected. She jumped slightly and held her toast in both hands like it was a shield. You already did leave things messy, Britta. That ship sailed the second you left a note on the fridge telling me our marriage was over. Now you want a tidy ending? Neat closure? What do you think this is, a movie? She put the toast down. Darian, she started, but I cut her off. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to use me as a pit stop. I thought maybe you came back because you wanted to rebuild. That maybe, just maybe, this was the start of something we could fix. But this makes it obvious. You didn't come back for me. You came back for a place to catch your breath. She didn't deny it. That was the worst part. She just sat back down, folded her hands in her lap, and stared at the floor. There was this long, gut-wrenching silence between us. The kind where the air feels heavier than it should. I could hear the ticking of the wall clock and the soft hum of the fridge. Background noise for a complete emotional breakdown. Then she whispered, You were always too good to me. I laughed, dry and bitter. Yeah, that's kind of the problem, isn't it? We didn't talk much the rest of the day. She stayed in the guest room, and I stayed anywhere she wasn't. I didn't even turn the lights on that evening. I just sat in the dark living room, thinking about everything I should have said a long time ago. But sometime after midnight, I heard her leave. I didn't get up to stop her. I didn't even check the window. I just sat in the dark like a coward, convincing myself that maybe if I ignored it, it wouldn't be real. She was gone the entire next day. Didn't text. Didn't call. Didn't explain. At 8:13 p.m., the front door opened again. I didn't need to look to know it was her. But what I wasn't expecting, what I still can't explain, is what happened next. She came in crying. Not the quiet kind. Not the dramatic, movie-style sobbing either. This was different. Britta was shaking, mouth open like she couldn't catch her breath, mascara smeared, hands trembling like she'd touched something poisonous. She didn't say a word. Just dropped to her knees in the entryway and curled up like a child, whispering, "I messed up again. I messed up." And then she said a name that wasn't his. A name I had never heard before. That's when I realized there was more to this story than I ever imagined. And the worst wasn't behind me. It was just getting started. I had never heard the name before. As she sobbed on the floor like a broken marionette, clutching her elbows and rocking back and forth, she kept whispering it. "Kellen, Kellen." Oh God, I'm so stupid. And for a moment, I actually thought I'd misheard her. I waited for her to say Rex. To say she went to meet him and something happened. But no, not Rex. Kellen. It hit me then. I didn't even know how deep the damage went. Who the hell is Kellen? I finally asked. She looked up at me like a child caught in a lie, eyes wild, face pale, and said nothing. Her lips moved, but no sound came out. So I asked again, louder, sharper this time. Who is Kellen? She finally spoke, and I swear my heart didn't just sink, it imploded. He's someone I met right after Rex and I split. Just online at first. I didn't plan to meet him. But after I left here the first time, her voice cracked. I was lonely. I didn't know where to go, and he offered to let me stay with him for a few days. I just stood there, numb, watching her break down in real time while every part of me screamed that I was a fool for letting her back through that door. I only stayed for a week, she said, wiping her nose on her sleeve like a teenager. But things got weird. He was different in person, quiet, but intense. Like, too intense. The kind who stares a little too long and never really blinks. I said nothing. And when I left, she continued, he kept calling, texting, showing up where I worked for a temp job. Once he sent me a photo of the back of my car at night and said, "I just wanted to make sure you got home safe." She shuddered. I blocked him after that. Changed numbers. Thought it was over. But tonight, when I left to see Rex, she swallowed hard. Rex didn't show, but Kellen did. The room tilted. My legs felt hollow. You told Kellen where you'd be? No, I swear I didn't. I have no idea how he found me. There was something in her eyes now, real fear. Not regret, not guilt, not drama. Actual, genuine fear. And somehow, even after everything she'd done, I still hated seeing her like that. He followed me back to the car, she whispered. He said things I didn't understand. Called me his unfinished chapter. He tried to get in. I pushed him away and drove off. I don't know how long he chased me, but I think I lost him. You think? I snapped. Did you call the cops? No. I panicked. I just wanted to come back here. Of course. Back to safety. Back to me. Again. I wanted to scream, but what was the point? She was already shattered, and I was already drowning. I ran a hand over my face and asked, "Is that it? Is there anyone else I should know about? Any other strange men circling like vultures because you needed another detour from your life?" She didn't answer, just sat there on the floor, shaking her head slowly, eyes glossy and distant. I stood frozen for what felt like minutes. Then I went to the window, pulled back the curtain, looked out into the night, and there it was. A white sedan, parked across the street, engine off, lights out, but definitely occupied. I stared at it, my pulse pounding in my ears, and slowly turned back toward her. "You need to tell me everything, Britta," I said, my voice low. Because suddenly this wasn't just about heartbreak. It was something darker. And I had a feeling it wasn't going to end with a final tearful apology this time. It was going to end with something much, much worse. I couldn't stop staring at the car. The way it sat there, completely still, like it belonged to the street. Like it wasn't anything unusual. But the longer I looked, the more unnatural it felt. The windows were dark, but not tinted. Just enough to obscure what was inside. Not enough to look illegal. I thought I saw a shadow move in the driver's seat, just slightly. Or maybe I imagined it. I didn't know anymore. My mind had been playing tricks on me for weeks. "Britta," I said without turning around, "what does Kellen drive?" There was a pause. Then her voice, thin as paper, A white Hyundai Elantra, with a cracked passenger mirror. I stared harder. Cracked mirror. Passenger side. I could see it now. I let the curtain fall slowly back into place. My chest tightened. Every part of me wanted to storm outside and rip him out of the car, to scream at him, threaten him, do something. Anything, but I couldn't move. Not because I was afraid of him. No, I was afraid of what would happen if I wasn't. Britta was pacing now, arms wrapped around herself like a straitjacket. What if he followed me all the way from the restaurant? What if he's been watching us this whole time? I should have never come back. I should have just disappeared. Stop, I said, sharper than I meant to. You're here now, and we deal with this. Together. I hated myself the moment I said it. Together? After everything she put me through? After wrecking our marriage like it was nothing? But in that moment, something shifted. I wasn't looking at the woman who cheated on me. I was looking at the woman I used to protect. The woman I'd once promised I'd keep safe, no matter what. That instinct doesn't die easily. I told her to stay inside and keep the lights low. Then I grabbed my jacket, walked out the back door, circled around the block, and approached the car from behind. My hands were shaking. I hadn't been in a real fight since high school, and even that one ended with a black eye and a trip to the nurse. But I didn't care. As I reached the car, I stepped right into the beam of a nearby streetlight. The driver's door opened. He stepped out. He wasn't what I expected. He wasn't big. Wasn't particularly intimidating. Just average. Unremarkable. Brown jacket. Scuffed boots. Thin face with hollow eyes. But there was something wrong about his expression. A smile that didn't match his eyes. Calm, too calm. You must be Darien, he said casually, as if he was introducing himself at a dinner party. I didn't speak. He glanced toward the house. She's not doing well, huh? Poor thing. I told her people would disappoint her. I clenched my fists. He raised his hands. Relax. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I just needed to see her. One last time. That's all. You've seen her, I said, forcing the words through my throat. Now leave. And don't come back. He tilted his head. Do you believe in unfinished stories? What? He took a step closer. Some people are chapters. Some are whole books. And some are the ending you never expected. Britta thinks you're her safety net. I think she's yours. I took another step forward. I'm not going to say it again. He smiled wider. It's funny. She told me you were boring. Predictable. But I can see it now. There's something buried in you. Something darker. I wonder what happens when that gets out. That was it. I lunged. But he moved faster than I expected. Not away, but back into the car. He shut the door, locked it, and started the engine in one smooth motion. Before I could even get a hand on the handle, he was already rolling away. I stood there in the cold, breath fogging the air, watching the red taillights disappear into the dark. And for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't just mad. I was dangerous. When I got back inside, Britta ran up to me, breathless. What happened? Did he? He's gone, I said. For now. She looked like she wanted to cry. Maybe to thank me. But I wasn't ready for either. I walked past her, sat down in the kitchen, and stared at the wall. Something had shifted tonight. Not just between me and her. Something inside me. And I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I hadn't slept much, but something about the silence felt different. Lighter. The air didn't feel as heavy. The pressure in my chest wasn't gone, but it had eased, just enough to let me breathe. Britta was already awake. She was in the kitchen, standing barefoot on the cold tile, pouring coffee into a chipped mug we used to fight over years ago. She looked up as I walked in. No words. Just a look, unsure, but quieter. Her face wasn't asking for forgiveness anymore. It was asking for understanding. And somehow, that felt more honest. I sat down across from her, the chair still a little loose from the night I kicked it. For a moment, we just drank coffee together in silence. It reminded me of the old mornings. Back when our biggest problem was deciding what to watch on Sunday. I'm leaving today, she said gently. I blinked. You are. She nodded. I need to start over. I can't keep using you as a safety net. That's not fair. You deserve better than what I gave you. I didn't know how to respond. My instincts wanted to stop her. But my heart, the part of it that had grown back through all the cracks, knew she was right. I won't disappear this time, she added. I'll text you once I get settled. I don't expect you to respond. I just want you to know I'm okay. She placed her mug in the sink and walked out of the kitchen. No drama. No crying. No long speeches. Just calm. An hour later, she left. One suitcase. No hugs. No promises. Just a quiet goodbye at the door and the soft click of the latch behind her. The same sound I remembered from when she left the first time, but this time, it didn't feel cruel. It felt final, and somehow right. I stood at the window for a while, watching the street, half expecting that white Hyundai to return. But it never did. Days passed, then weeks. And with time, I started coming back to myself. I fixed the loose chair, replaced the dead plant in the guest room. I took a weekend trip to the coast by myself and read an entire book without checking my phone. I saw friends again. I stopped ducking their calls. I started cooking real meals. I even changed the ringtone on my phone because that one stupid sound had become too heavy. And one morning, I opened a message from Britta. Hey, just wanted you to know I'm safe. I'm getting help. And thank you for being the one thing in my life that didn't give up on me, even when I gave up on myself. I didn't reply, but I smiled. Not because I was still in love. Not because I wanted her back. But because I had finally learned that letting go of someone doesn't mean losing. Sometimes, letting go is the first real victory. I still keep the ring in a drawer, not because I miss her, but because it reminds me that even broken things once meant something. And healing doesn't always look like getting someone back. Sometimes, healing is just being okay when they're gone. Thank you for watching this story on Reddit Confessions. If any moment in this story resonated with you, whether it was Britta's unexpected return, the fear of being watched, or the final moment of letting go, drop a comment below and share what part hit you hardest. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you've ever been through something even remotely like this, you're not alone. We'll see you in the next one.